What if I told you that the real battle isn't fought in the streets or in the shadows of the world, but deep within the soul? That the Thuggies we fear are not just men in masks or the echoes of a troubled past, but spiritual assassins, ancient forces, archetypes, embedded in our very being. I died 7 years ago, not in body, but in spirit. And from that death, something was born. Let me tell you how Daryl Smith had died so the ego could rise. My name is Daryl Smith, or it was Daryl Smith, and or the ego, died some 7 years ago. How? Because Daryl Smith was never meant to survive. He was a construct, an amalgamation of trauma, ego, bloodline programming, and street theology. He was surrounded by Thuggies, not just people, but archetypical forces: betrayal, pride, fear, envy, lust for control. These were just his companions, his killers. See, let me break something down for you. In the esoteric, metaphysical, symbolic, and occult traditions, this death is known. It is the sacrificial disembarkment of the lower self, what the mystics call Nigro, the blackening. A symbolic crucifixion, not to punish but to purify, not to end but to initiate. In this sacred lesson, your enemies are not out there, they're within. And until you confront them, name them, and sacrifice them, you remain bound in illusion. In this video, I'm going to unpack how my death was a cultic ritual of liberation, a spiritual metamorphosis through the fires of the inner welfare. And by the end, you might just see your own Thuggies for what and who they truly are, and why they must die so the real you can live. So without further ado, the lesson titled, Thuggies. Let's begin. Every soul carries shadows, fragments of self, shaped by pain, fear, and illusion. The Thuggies were mine, but in the occultic sense, they weren't just behaviors or attitudes. They were egregores, psychic constructs fed by my own unconscious energy. I'll name a few of them for you, just as I know them. You see Duke right there? That's pride. He's the massive strength that conceals deep-rooted insecurities. And Son always told me, never show weakness. And you see money over there in red? That's anger. A false fire flaring up to cover sorrow. A Thuggy that made me war to avoid grieving. And envy, the silent assassin, watching others rise while wondering, why not me? Hey, watch out. And here comes Shorty. Lust for fear, the illusion of power, the Thuggy who feared surrender, who couldn't trust the unfolding. And the main shot caller of them all, fear, the chief among them. Fear of death, fear of rejection, fear of transformation. Each of these forces operated in the unseen, hidden beneath my persona, my reputation, even my prayers. But in the language of initiation, these aren't just sins or flaws. They are guardians at the gate, designed to test you, break you, and even prepare you for the next dimension of being. 7 years ago, the Thuggies turned on me. Not in the streets, but in the silence, in the dark night of the soul, when everything I had built, every identity I wore, began to unravel. In occultic systems, whether Hermetic, Kabbalistic, or Gnostic, this is the sacred descent. The initiate must die before they can be reborn. This is the myth of Osiris, dismembered by Set, the fall of Adam Kadmon, the crucifixion of Christ. Each one, a mirror of the same truth. The ego must be shattered for the soul to awaken. But in my case, the breaking came through isolation, betrayal, confusion, and silence from the divine. I was led into the underworld, but beneath the surface of myself. In that darkness, something ancient was happening. The old me, Daryl Smith, was being calcined, burned down to its essence. In alchemy, this is the first stage, Nigro, the blackening. This is the spiritual decomposition of the falsehood. From there, the soul begins to undergo albedo, the whitening, purification, and then rubedo, the reddening, the birth of the immortal self. My Thuggies, once seen and named, began to lose power, not because I fought them, but because I integrated them. What do I mean by that? I honored the pain behind my pride. I mourned the wounds beneath my rage. I surrendered control, and in doing so, I found true power. And when I finally let them die, I was reborn, not as a perfect man, but as an initiate, an awakened soul. The lesson is this: if you're serious about transformation, you must descend. You must face your Thuggies, those inner forces that sabotage your growth, and sacrifice them on the altar of your soul. Because true power isn't in domination, fame, or control. It's in dying consciously and resurrecting as your higher self. My name was Daryl Winnell Smith, and he died so I could live. And you might be standing at the same threshold right now. The question is, will you let your Thuggies kill you unconsciously, or will you go willingly into the fire and emerge as something eternal? Stay woke in the shadow, stay humble in the light, and remember, every death is just a hidden beginning.